For this year's Easter celebration, our theme is Easter hope. And the resurrection of Jesus is the source of Easter hope. This source of all Easter hope is the one whom the Old Testament prophets refer to as the King of Kings, the Prince of Peace, God with us, and the fact that he is alive. This source of Easter hope is that the one who came from heaven to walk upon this earth, who spoke of God's passionate concern for lost people, who sought out the hospitality of those who were outcasts from respectable society, who touched the leper, healed the sick, fed the hungry, comforted those who were troubled, and troubled those who were comfortable. He is alive. This source of Easter hope is the one who was betrayed and denied and deserted by his closest friends and is alive. The one who was falsely accused, publicly humiliated, unjustly tried by religious and political leaders is alive. The source of our Easter hope is that the one who was cruelly flogged, barbarically beaten, and mercilessly executed by Roman soldiers is alive. As it says of Jesus in John 1 verse 5, the light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not overcome it. The New Testament continually points us to the resurrection of Jesus as a powerful source of hope. But at the very same time, the New Testament accounts of the resurrection also bear witness to how difficult we find it to grasp and accept and rely upon and act upon this Easter hope. We heard earlier that account of the resurrection as it's recorded in Matthew 28. But a dozen chapters before that, in Matthew chapter 16:21, long before the recording of Jesus being arrested, it says this: from that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go up to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders and the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life. Jesus tells them exactly the same thing over and over again. It's there again in Matthew 17:23, and it's repeated a third time in Matthew 20, verse 19. So it could not be more clear, according to Matthew, that at the same time as repeatedly and plainly telling his friends that he was going to be killed, Jesus also repeatedly and plainly told them that on the third day he would be raised to new life. Jesus was offering them ahead of time Easter hope. But no matter however much he kept on telling them, for some reason they continually failed to grasp what on earth he was going on about. Had those first disciples of Christ truly grasped and accepted and acted upon the Easter hope that Jesus clearly offered them in Matthew 16, 17, 20, then Matthew chapter 28 would read very differently. Had the disciples been fueled by Easter hope on that first Easter morning, then they would have all eagerly diarised, set their alarms to gather together at the tomb very early that day, so as not to miss seeing, greeting, welcoming back their risen Saviour. But just when they should be forming a welcome party, the reality is that they are completely devoid of Easter hope. Most of them stay away from the tomb. The only followers of Jesus who walk towards him on resurrection morning are Mary Magdalene along with one or two other women. And according to Mark's gospel, Mary Magdalene and the rest very definitely don't approach the tomb with any hope. Instead, they are full of grief. They're going to anoint what they believe they will find there: Jesus' dead corpse. Whilst all four Gospels give different explanations of it, they all describe the very same thing. Come Easter morning, Jesus is alive, but his followers are still behaving as if he's dead. The light of the world is shining brighter than ever before, but the disciples are focused not on the light, but on the darkness. The prison doors have burst open metaphorically, so that liberty and freedom are readily available to all who feel captive, but fear and grief and anxiety still have an ice-cold grip on the friends of Jesus. According to Matthew's account, the process of waking the disciples from their awful stupor so that they can start to embrace Easter hope and make the move from darkness to light, from prison to freedom, from death to life, takes the combination of a violent earthquake, a dazzling angel, and finally, at last, a face-to-face meeting with their risen Lord. Having said all of this, it seems that Jesus is totally unsurprised by their condition. I cannot help thinking that Jesus fully understands that his dearest friends, and sometimes when something tragic happens in our lives, we too can be impacted by terrible shock. In their case, having just witnessed with their own eyes the brutal way in which his mortal life had just been snuffed out, the disciples were in a very dark place. We humans don't easily recover from the witnessing of death. The process of shock and grief takes time. The negative fills our heads and hearts more easily than the positive. And even the strongest resolve can quickly evaporate. Jesus understands all of this. The good news is that Easter hope does not rest on our resilience in the face of the horrors of this world. Easter hope rests solely upon Jesus Christ, who has overcome those horrors on our behalf and is alive. Ultimately, Easter hope has been embraced not only by those close friends of Jesus, who once walked and talked and broke bread with him, but also by millions more, such as ourselves, who sometimes tentatively and sometimes boldly make a daily choice to entrust ourselves to our risen Lord, to focus not on darkness today, but to focus on the light, to live not as people imprisoned by fear and guilt and shame, but as God's children, forgiven, loved, free. To look to the future not as those who feel condemned to decay and death and destruction, but as those who hold on to Easter hope, come what may. That because of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, nothing, not even death itself, can ever separate us from God's love for us in Jesus Christ.